Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Let's go over to the CBN newsroom for today's top stories.
Thanks, Gordon. More Christians are persecuted today than any time in history. The persecution watchdog group Open Doors estimates about 322 Christians around the world are killed for their faith every month. While the numbers are terrible, it's the personal horror experienced by many believers that tells the real story. John Jessup introduces us to a man who's bringing some of those personal stories to light.
For years, Johnny Moore operated behind the scenes in evangelical circles. Today, he's front and center, leading a Christian PR firm that represents well-known churches and Christian leaders, and standing in the Oval Office praying over the President of the United States.
I found an amazing seat at the table. I found total freedom to express my point of view. I found plenty of decisions changed, based upon the contribution of the evangelical community. I've watched the value of our voice.
But his passion for the persecuted church outweighs any other ambition. It started during a graduation ceremony in India when he witnessed young Bible college students make the following pledge: "Even in the face of death, I will not deny him. I will not fear. I know my faith could cost me my life, but I will follow and love Jesus until the end, wherever and however that end may come."
It was the most profound, life-changing experience in my Christian life. And since then, my trips to Iraq and other places throughout the Middle East, I have again and again and again refound my faith in closer proximity to the persecuted church.
In what ways is our Christian walk hurting because we don't have that closeness to this? And not just our Christian journey, but how does it affect our witness and our credibility as ambassadors for Christ?
I mean, just take the Sermon on the Mount. We struggle with forgiving our neighbor, but they forgive their executioners. We struggle with giving our tithe. They give their money to serve the families of those that killed them.
Moore's new book, The Martyr's Oath, Living for the Jesus They're Willing to Die For, is a journey across the globe with examples of Christians who suffered torture, persecution, and in some cases paid the ultimate cost with their lives. And according to groups like Aid to the Church in Need, persecution is on the rise, with as many as 600,000 Christians suffering worldwide last year, and conditions worsening, especially for Nigerian believers and Coptic Christians in Egypt at the hands of Islamic terror.
People don't understand. We've lost 80% of the Christians in Iraq, 50% of the Christians in Syria. We've lost 99% of the Christians in Turkey in a generation.
For Moore, sharing their stories is a way to point all believers to pray for and support the persecuted church, and to point them to the last line of the Martyr's Oath, a verse Paul wrote to the church in Philippi: "For me to live is Christ, for me to die is gain." John Jessup, CBN News, Washington.
President Trump's nominee to the post of Ambassador for Religious Freedom has yet to be confirmed by the Senate. The president nominated Kansas Governor Sam Brownback back in July. Brownback is a former senator with a long history of standing up for religious freedom, including helping to craft the law that ensures the U.S. will consider religious freedom when making foreign policy. Democrats blocked his confirmation vote because Brownback repealed an order prohibiting discrimination against LGBT government workers in Kansas. Brownback is just one of many of President Trump's nominees to federal positions who have yet to be confirmed. About 200 of his selections have yet to be confirmed. That's about 2/3 of his overall nomination. President Trump has far less than President Barack Obama or Judge George W. Bush had confirmed in their first years in office. Trump blames Democrats in the Senate for slow walking the nominees and Democrats say it's the Trump administration who's not moving fast enough to get their people confirmed. The president will now have to renominate those appointees and send them back to the Senate for confirmation in 2018. Well, the snow has stopped, but bitter cold temperatures and icy wind chills are gripping many states around the U.S. New York is now under a state of emergency after seeing a record 62 inches of snow. Parts of Pennsylvania are also digging out from a record-topping 65 inches of snow.
We're drowning in snow. This is the best way I can put it.
It's freezing. I feel like icicles are hitting my face.
The Arctic weather is making holiday travel difficult. Small planes skidded off runways in Michigan City, Indiana, and Pittsburgh. And icy roads are responsible for more than 40 accidents in Kansas City alone. The president's tax reform plan is set to take effect in 2018, but the benefits are already being seen. Corporations are giving bonuses, promising wage increases, and planning to expand. As Gary Lane shows us, taxpayers can still take steps this year to lighten their tax load.
When President Trump signed the new tax bill into law, he expressed confidence that Americans will like it once they start receiving larger paychecks next year. Some Democrats argue the new tax law will only benefit corporations and the wealthy. But the Tax Policy Center says 91% of middle-income Americans will receive a tax cut in 2018. That revelation even pleased Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders.
It is a very good thing, and that's why we should have made the tax breaks for the middle class permanent.
The individual tax cuts are temporary and will expire within 8 years if Congress does not act to make them permanent or extend them. Former Oklahoma Senator Tom Coburn says he thinks the new tax law will do remarkable things for the U.S. economy.
There isn't a tax bill that's ever been passed that everybody likes. But in the long run, this is going to be very, very beneficial in terms of job creation, in terms of raising wages for middle-income and lower middle-income families.
Already, Wells Fargo and Fifth Third Bancorp say they're raising the minimum wage at their companies to $15 per hour. Boeing, Comcast, and AT&T are giving their employees bonuses, and they're promising to spend billions to expand their businesses nationwide. Some taxpayers in higher tax states are jamming local offices to prepay next year's property taxes so they can get a bigger deduction this year. Next year, the allowed deduction for combined property and local income taxes is capped at $10,000. The president and many members of Congress wanted the cap because they felt it was unfair for Americans in states where taxes are lower to subsidize people in higher tax states like California and New York. As for charitable deductions, they're still allowed for people who itemize their taxes, but the doubling of the standard deduction to $24,000 for married couples and $12,000 for singles means more people are likely to forego itemizing their taxes next year. CBN's Executive Director of Planned Giving says if people intend to do that, they still have time to help their favorite charities this year.
If this year you're itemizing deductions, and next year it appears you're going to end up taking the standard deduction because of the increase, you can push forward some of your charitable giving that you had planned for 2018 into 2017, but you got to do it by year end.
Gary Lane, CBN News.